Here we go.
You are now tuned in to this week's episode of our podcast. Today we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. By sharing our collective expertise, we will show you how to harness, control, and use your own skill set to achieve ultimate success and live the life you want. And now, please welcome your host.
Hey everybody, welcome on back to the Anomalies podcast. I'm your host Tanner up in Wisconsin, and tonight is going to be a shit show. And every time we play that intro with a guest, I love watching their reaction. This might have been the best one yet.
Just the template. I just love it. It's just here, insert name of podcast, insert name of host. It's like a lot of comedy clubs do that still. They have a little track and they'll be like, and now welcome to the stage, your host. And it just stops, you know, whoever walks up.
That's awesome.
Where did you find this?
I think I typed in like generic podcast intros, and I just sent that website to Tyler.
It didn't come with the software? I figured it came with the software for this thing.
Negative, Watson. I put that.
Hilarious. All right, that's even better.
Apparently, the voice's name is Rafi, so shout out Rafi.
Rafi?
So if everyone hearing that voice listening right now, I bet you a lot of you recognize that voice. We have a special guest on tonight. We got our guy, Todd Mccomas. Thanks for jumping on, man. And then we also have another special guest, which could cause this thing to go like just derail and go bonkers. But we got Marco's girlfriend, or maybe babysitter. We have the lovely Bree with us tonight.
Oh.
I would definitely say babysitter sometimes, but
that's in role play.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's in role play. Oh, I gotta fuck the babysitter tonight.
Well, Todd actually.
What time do you got to be home? Call your parents and tell them I'm running late, and we'll bang.
No, the fucked up thing is when we went to come see you 2 weeks ago in Springfield. When we walked into the hotel room, she's like, I just feel like your parents are going to come in the room and tell us we're in trouble the whole time.
This hotel was so weird. I literally felt like I snuck in through the basement window, and we were listening to a bunch of 90s music. I'm like, any minute, his parents are going to come in and just be like, Marco, what are you doing in here with that girl?
Did you book an hourly hotel, Marco? What kind of
yeah, where are you staying?
The closest one to the comedy club you were working.
I stayed at the Quality Inn.
About walking and drinking.
I got it. Well, hopefully it made the sex better. All the mystery and intrigue, fear of getting caught.
Oh shit!
It's a lot of looking at the door.
This would be a good excuse for me. Yeah, it only lasted 3 minutes because my parents are right next door.
Oh shit!
Hold
on. That being said, what is life like? A lot of us are comedy fans, and we listen to a lot of comedians' podcasts. But what is life like on the road?
It's awesome, man. It's all what you make of it, you know? Like some guy, it can be a grind. I'm not going to lie, especially me. I like to drive most places, especially now because I edit during the day, you know, I edit my podcast and stuff. So I got to travel with an iMac now and all my gear. So flying is a last resort option. You know, if it's 10 hours or something, I'll fly. I'll suck it up and do what I can on my laptop. But now I drive. But the beauty of driving is I get to finally kick out podcasts for myself. Ones I like to listen to because I don't have time when I'm at home, right? But you can't edit and drive, so I just listen to other people's podcasts and catch up now. So I like it, man. The beauty of a new city is always finding a good local place to eat. I don't eat chains, you know, if I can avoid it. So I like to find the best local Mexican place, a barbecue place, or whatever the staple is. And then meeting new people, like at the shows. Like some comedians don't hang out after the shows, which is fine. It's all in, how you are as a human being, how comfortable you are around other people. But I love meeting new people and hanging out and having beers and learning, each other's story, like where people met and how they relate to each other. All that's awesome to me. That's what makes the road worth it. I just like asking questions and learning stuff about folks.
What are some of your favorite places to eat? You said specifically you don't like to eat chain restaurants. What do you like to eat?
Oh man, if I can find a good Mexican place, I'm all about some tacos and quesadillas. And
Are you just pandering to Marco?
yeah, what's your mom doing later? Next time I come through there, maybe your mom can make me some tacos.
Hey, you know what? You're going to be here in July. As a matter of fact, we talked about that.
Yeah,
You're gonna come into Rhythm City Casino. Hopefully, with everything going on, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But with all of that, when you do come here, absolutely, you have a place to sit at our table and eat, because my parents will definitely cook you some authentic Mexican food. Absolutely.
I love it. Like enchiladas. I love enchiladas, but seldom do I get them at a restaurant because it's so hit and miss. But people like that make it themselves and know what in the fuck they're doing. Nothing beats an enchilada, man. Nothing beats it. So if she can make some enchiladas, I'm there.
You know what? The best of both worlds. My mom just spent the last 18 years in Albuquerque, so she actually makes those. Yeah,
those famous enchiladas,
green chili enchiladas.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I like meat. I like all things meat. So if I can find a good barbecue place, or even a place to grab a steak. But here's my thing, man. I'm like a finger food person. So I used to be a big steak dinner guy, but now, man, I like a little bit of everything. Like I might order 3 appetizers instead of an entree, just so I can pick off each one. You know what I mean? I like little cool little egg rolls. Like I went to this Irish pub somewhere recently, and I got these Reuben egg rolls. Jesus Christ,
those are
dude.
amazing. The bar my place makes those.
Did you eat at Darcy's in Springfield?
I did.
Oh, what did you have?
Shit.
Was it the horseshoe?
I had a shoe, but it wasn't. Oh man, people told me it wasn't the right one. I had the fries and all that shit.
Yeah.
Is there 2 different kind?
I believe so, because we were talking about that on the last episode. The episode after we came and saw you, me and Brian were talking, because we went there right before your show, and we had the shoe.
Whatever, which one I had, Matt Mitrione told me I was a fucking idiot for not getting the other one. So whatever, I got the least popular shoe, I guess, but I thought it was delicious. I thought that place was great. Springfield, man, people sleep on Springfield. That place it's a good time. The people are a good ass time. They like to party. They're just hardworking folks, and there's good food to be found. And people in that comedy club are awesome. Like I love the staff at that comedy club.
And that
was a great time.
Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah, and it's what's great about Springfield is it's close to a lot of other places. Yeah. So probably half the crowd each night was from 2 hours away in either direction. So it was drawn in from I think Madison, Wisconsin, and all kinds of places.
What's the furthest away you've had people come to see your shows that you've interacted with?
Early on, man, when we were attached to Barstool Sports, or it's like we were new. We were kind of the new thing. So we had people come from Canada to Indianapolis. I think these guys came like 14 or 15 hours, and like overnight tripped it, and it was amazing. It was a group of 4 of them, and I think it was me, I think Sean Latham, I think maybe Vibs. It was just kind of a mixed show. It wasn't like a regular show. We just all kind of jumped in there, and that's definitely the farthest 14 or 15 hours that nobody's touched that since. I guess some 4 or 5 hours, but man,
the first time that we met, it was that way. You performed in Mount Carroll, Illinois, and apparently there's 2 of them, because the first time I looked it up, it was an hour and a half for me. The second time I looked it up, it was 4.5 hours away from me, and that was the night that you and Vibs performed out at a barn, and
out in Marshall, Illinois.
Yeah.
At the winery, Castle Finn Winery.
At the winery, and then we hung out that night, and then we went to Terre Haute, Indiana, and then that was I have videos of you guys doing Irish cart bombs, and then you guys threw up afterwards.
Yeah, I watered a plant.
I kind of
Irish car bomb vomit.
I kind of held guards so nobody would fuck with you guys, because Viv was throwing up in the bathroom and you were throwing up in the plant.
That got out of control. Yeah.
That was fun.
Did we lose the babysitter? The babysitter's gone.
I think she's coming back in.
No, she just popped up right there.
There
Wow.
she is.
There's the
Okay.
babysitter.
Nice.
I said I was going to be the one that had all of the issues with it tonight.
It's got to be someone.
Don't worry, I had to work at it.
Hey, tell your parents to put more minutes on your phone.
I need to wait until after 9. I get 3 minutes.
3 minutes after. Which is funny because Marco's the old guy too. So
Yeah.
No, right now, hold on. Right now, Todd's the old guy.
Yeah. I'm usually the oldest guy on any said podcast.
How old are you, Todd?
48.
Jesus. You got AARP knocking on your door.
Oh, yeah. I get the fucking mail all the time. They're
Ugh.
like getting ready for me.
But Marco's 65.
Oh, fuck
Right.
off.
53, yeah.
although
Todd, hold on. That brings up an important question. What's it been like to watch technology grow, especially since you were a police officer for a big period of that?
Yeah, what was that like before the internet? Man.
Right? No, I lived 30 years without the internet. Like, it's fucking weird. I have a whole bit. Well, you guys that came to the show heard part of it, I think, if I did it on the generational confusion stuff. But it's true. Like, I went 30 years without the internet as we know it. I saw the very first iteration of it where it was dial up and you had to wait about 27 minutes before it to, you could get a page to show up, and you have ding dong, all these weird sounds going off as it dialed out. It might take you 17 attempts to finally make a connection. And whenever you like porn, like you would see it in phases. It would come on and it would be like a negative, like a photo negative, and it would start filling in with color a little bit and be less pixelated over the course of a half hour. It was sad, dude. It was sad. And I remember the first time, like, I saw it in police work. I was stationed on a gambling boat, and I was a rookie, and my class for the state police here in Indiana was funded by Riverboat. So everybody in my class had to take one tour in your rookie year. So I had to ride that thing for a year. It bored out of my mind. Like, nothing ever happens on a gambling boat except gambling. So no fun cop work. And then we had the internet. So we didn't have it at state police posts yet. So we had that riverboat money coming in. The gaming commission had money and budget. So we all had computers and we had the internet. And I was like, as bad as I am at technology now, I was like on the cutting edge of Microsoft Office and
3.1.
Yeah, everybody else was used to typewriters and shit, and I'm like, I'm building templates with form fields where you can just, jump tab over from one to the other and fill in your information. I'm like recreating state police forms, and they even adopted some of them. Like, we're going to spread these out across the state, and I'll start using these in our new Fandango computers, and it was cool. And then the internet, like, I would get on like the FBI's most wanted site, and I would print off like the FBI's most 10 wanted fugitives, and I would put it on our bulletin board just to look cool. Like, none of those motherfuckers were coming on our gambling boat, but I'm like, just in case, we know what they look like. So look on the surveillance cameras. And but it was cool, man. Like, it. And now, fuck, dude, when I left, like, I was one of our 2 wiretap guys. Like, I knew that wiretap system better than anybody as far as like the analytical side. So when you go from, handwriting out, when I started, we hand wrote out crash reports and case reports, and you gave them to a secretary to type out on a typewriter. To when I left, we were wiretapping, people's cell phones, and we were, I was tracking down fugitives by the geolocation and Google, historical records according to your phone, hitting Google sites and stuff like that, figuring out where he had been in murder cases and shit. So over the course of 21 years, not that long a time when you look at the grand scheme of time, and like we came that far. DNA, we didn't have DNA at first when, I was a new thing when I started. And now look at this shit. Like, people are getting locked up from 23andMe by just trying to figure out where they came from. And they're going to prison forever because they killed somebody 30 years before. Yeah, it's crazy.
How pissed off would the secretaries get at you for having bad handwriting?
Terrible. Oh, it's the worst. I had good handwriting, so they loved me.
Oh.
But yeah. And then also I created all the computer templates. So then they really loved me. They were like, oh, we'll just use this now to be easier. Guys can do this on their own, and we don't have to retype the shit.
It's always good when those secretaries love you, though. They can make your life so good.
Oh, yeah. Dude, we used to do crash reports, and you had to do a diagram, right, of the crash every time. They gave us these old templates, like things. Remember when you were in school? I don't know if you guys had this in school or not, but you'd have this little plastic thing with shapes and stuff in it that you'd fill in, like you had an art class with. They had one for crashes. So you had like a stop sign thing, and you just put your pencil in there and draw within the shape, and that was a stop sign. Like, that's how we used to do them before computers. It's crazy. I had to draw a deer. Like, you physically draw a deer with the template.
I don't know what's going on behind me, but there's been like 6 cop cars and a fire truck going up the highway. So that's why I keep looking back.
Shit, you might be at the first phase of the apocalypse, brother.
Maybe. We have one podcast one fucking time, and then you send all your buddies my way.
What if we captured the first ever happening of the apocalypse? Like, it started right behind your apartment or house there.
I live in the middle of nowhere on a farm, so we are in the right area for it.
Oh, do you have a bunker?
Yeah, well, the farm.
Just in case.
No one's coming in here.
Yeah, could you have like the Signs movie happen like at your house?
Oh,
it would be kind of sweet. I mean, I might go down, but my face would get it in the documentary at least, probably.
What a great fucking movie too. You are in a good setup for an apocalypse. Like, I'm right in the city. I'm gonna be fucked. I'm gonna run out of bullets too fast. There's too many people running around trying to take shit. We gotta stock up.
With this toilet paper shortage and all that shit, like my hillbilly friends, I'm way up in Northwest Wisconsin. My hillbilly friends, it's like back in the day when there was no 22 ammo. Everyone was going to all the Gander stores and Walmart and shit. They're just buying ammo. And I was like, why? Really? Well, everything's getting cheaper. And I know motherfuckers after toilet paper, they're going to start thinking, what about looting? Because we don't have the essentials. We're going to need a way to go get them. So all my hillbilly friends are just stocking up on ammo and talking about it.
Dude, you want to hear some real shit with this toilet paper shortage? My fiance and I came home the other night, and one of the houses got TP'd. And I'm like, people are fucking toilet paper in during the toilet paper shortage? Yeah, it's a flex.
You guys remember that just a few days ago? I put that at like my Facebook status. I'm like, damn, what if you were a high schooler right now going out to go start TPing houses? I mean, that you might get shot, like literally shot.
Oh, yeah. People will shoot you. Like people that fucking got their ass worn out at Costco that day trying to find toilet paper, and then you're out hanging it from trees.
That would be hilarious.
Was your neighbor out there climbing the trees and just rolling it back up?
Try to recycle it.
God damn it, this is $45 a roll.
You're in a pinch.
Hey, so you live in Northwest Wisconsin. Where is Minong, Wisconsin? Is that Northwest?
That's north of me about another 45 minutes. That's actually where Jack Link is from.
Oh, I know. I did a comedy show there one time.
And, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
At Jack Link?
Well, in Minong, which only has 230 people, I think, in that village.
Maybe.
So they have like a little town center, a little recreational center. And when they had the comedy show, I'm like, how the fuck are you going to do a comedy show in a town that has 230 people? But there's nothing there. So 200 of the 230 people showed up at the damn show, which means there's only like 30 little kids in that whole village. The rest are adults, and they all came. And when you do the show, they have a little swag bag they give you, and it's just full of Jack Link's shit.
Right.
That town only exists because of Jack Link's.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then
the factory employs more people that actually live in that town.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you'd have to. You can't. How much jerky can you make with 200 adults? I mean,
not enough.
No. And it was funny because after the show, there was some cool ass giant bar right off of a lake, a huge lake, and it was probably about 15 or 20 minutes from the little rec hall. So everybody wanted to go there afterward. So we go, and I'm like, "How we go? I gotta get back to a hotel. What are we gonna do?" And these people are like, "Oh, you can just ride with us." And I'm like, "Well, you guys gonna be drinking?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, well, can we Uber or something? And they're like, of course they don't have Uber.
No.
So I'm like, what about the cops? And they all literally, they go,
they were there.
You know, I can't tell you the last time I saw a cop. Like the cops don't even patrol there. It's crazy. So everybody just drives around drunk and does whatever the fuck they want to do.
When you're north of Highway 8 in Wisconsin, which is about a half hour south of where you were in Minong, we always say like the rules just don't apply because I mean, truthfully, there's not any humans there, and there's like 3 big Indian reservations and Superior. That's about it. I mean, that's it. And there's there's some farmland, there's some trees, there's a lot of lakes, and there's just really no rules up north.
I loved it though. What a cool place, because everybody, it's like one big family. That whole village, everybody
knew everybody,
and you hung out with everybody. Yeah, it was nuts.
How desperate were you for a show that you had to go to Minong? And did you drive there?
I did drive there.
Oh my god!
Well,
how long of a trip?
Well, it was on a run, right? So, like Sean Latham and I used to work for this booker. They go, shit. Now I'm having a brain fart. It was a family. So the dad was this old school booker from way back to like the early '80s, like in the heyday of comedy, and he was a big deal. And now the business had kind of suffered a lot coming into our generation of comedy, but they still held on to all these little bar shows and stuff all over the country and in real little clubs. So you would take a run for them of one-nighters. So you would think, I think that run probably started in Michigan, and then you would go over somewhere in between there, like maybe southern Wisconsin or southeast Wisconsin, and then up to Minong, and you would end on Minong, and then you had that long, lonely drive home afterward.
Is that similar to a Tribble Run?
Yeah. They were the same. These were Yoders. So these were called Yoder runs. The family was the Yoders, but the Trouble Run, that was basically the Pacific Northwest. I know, very Amish name. Very Amish name. And
I mean, up in Minong, there are a huge Amish population just north of there, and that's all Yoders and Millers, man.
Oh yeah. A lot of Yoders around. I don't know how maybe they splintered off at one point, Amish, which probably explains some of the venues we did. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, like they barely had electricity, let alone anybody to come watch the show. But you would do this big run of 3 shows in a weekend, and you might make $1,000, $1,100 after all 3 shows, and then come home. Which, it was side income for me. I never did it full time, so I was always extra money. But like guys like Sean doing it full time, man, that was your hustle. You just had to drive your ass off all over the country, and you might spend $400 or $500 of that on gas. It's nuts.
So, I've got a quick question about Sean. He, you and him obviously been friends for a while. He just tweeted recently he misses Indiana.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any additional insight to that? Is he
friend of the show?
Yes. Is New York life treating him okay? Is he doing good? Or
yeah, he's doing great, man. We talk most days, I would say, probably at least 4 or 5 times a week. So, and when we do, it's for long periods of time. And he's loving his craft right now. And I wouldn't say, he's an LA guy. So he's more like sun and beach and laid back atmosphere, where New York is obviously the opposite of that. So that's taking getting used to. But, he has this awesome lady who lives there in New Jersey.
Gary's amazing.
Yeah. So he's loving that aspect of life on the East Coast. And will he stay there? I don't know. I mean, he's killing it. He's got his shows. He's just he's getting ready to release a podcast, I think, soon.
I was going to ask, do you know if that's launching soon?
Yeah, I hope I'm not releasing something I'm not supposed to. But
no, he talks about it on here.
Yeah, he's working on it for sure. Now, I guess Barstool is like really like, since even we were there, now it's so compartmentalized. Yeah, they have like a whole director of podcasting now, that in this whole infrastructure where you build your show first, and you create these test episodes and all that, and then they critique and they help you get it shaped so that you're more ready for launch than just maybe how we used to start, and figuring it out after the course of 10 episodes. You have it figured out now by your first one. So he's kind of going through that process right now. But Sean, he's gonna fucking kill it. It's gonna be hilarious. Sure. He's got so many funny friends around there. Like He's yeah.
Just
You know,
the people he gets on his cooking shows are like amazing. Like Gabriel, Joe,
hilarious.
Coy, like
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And he fucking, what's cool is, you know, some of those people he was already friends with, like he's awesome friends with Fluffy and stuff.
Yeah.
But all these new friends that he's making, you know, through these bookings that he's getting, that show. I mean, as soon as, you know how it started, right? Him doing it on Snapchat in our apartment. Like
that's how it started?
Yeah. I know he didn't call it $20 Chef yet, but he used to do these cooking videos on Snapchat.
This is when you and him lived together?
Yeah. And he would snap the whole goddamn process and just being hilarious, you know, and he'd smoke up, you know, he's drinking too or whatever, and just sit there and have a good ass time while he'd cook up these meals. And then in the course of doing so, you know, after joining forces with Pat and he was pitching the idea, you know, he was like, man, I've been living on a budget my entire adult life. Like I only cook on the cheapest budget possible, but I still make amazing food. So then, you know, I might miss a step or two there in the official development of the show, but the heart of that show came originally from him on Snapchat, just in our apartment, fucking off. Yeah.
So when you two were living together, I've always wanted to ask you this, Todd. So you said you're 48 years old.
Yeah.
I always feel like you're one of the oldest teenagers we ever met, just your personality. And you mentioned you're engaged. Congrats to that.
Thank you.
Fiance seems awesome. But what was it like being a twice divorced, single dad in the dating scene as a retired cop, ex-Marine, comedian? I mean, that's a mouthful to like say to women. And I've always just wanted to get inside your brain. Like, what's it like dating with all of that as your story?
It's fucking crazy. I mean, to be honest, I only ran into women at comedy shows pretty much because we were doing it, you know, whether we were getting paid or we were just doing it for free because, you know, we had the night available. We were just always doing comedy. And fortunately, Sean and I lived right behind the comedy club in the same parking lot as like 3 other cool ass bars and restaurants. So we were just hanging out constantly in that bar scene and doing shows. So pretty much I'm a big, like, I wasn't much on reaching out to girl. Like I had to know that you had some interest first because I didn't want you to have a leg up on me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to go through all that. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks, and the walk away. So I would just wait it out. And once I knew you had interest, then I was all about it. But I wasn't like randomly online a whole lot, just fishing for it.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up. So, Mr. Technology, you stayed away from Tinder and all them.
I was on there a little bit, but I just didn't use them much. You know what I mean? I was like, why am I fucking around here? And by the time I got on there too, it was a little bit of, you know, I'd been with Pat and Barstool and that whole thing. So then it was like, if they hit me, they knew me for whatever reason. And I'm like, I got all these fucking expectations now. Like, Jesus, I'm not going to hold up to that, you know? So it didn't really work out. You don't want fangirl, you know, hitting you up as much as, you know, not that could be a bad thing, but Marnie didn't know who in the hell I was. She met me at a comedy show. She only came there because she got free tickets the night before because she went to some Mel Review, like knockoff Chippendale show the club threw the night before. got
her all hot and bothered, and you voted for her.
Yeah. And then she got free tickets to come back the next night, and it was I think Francis from Barstool headlining. So I think Bibbs and I did. I think I hosted for him, you know, because I owned the club. I was like, I'll host it, and then we just kind of do all Barstool people show.
So I was actually at that show, and I had my buddies bail on me, and Francis, they sat me right up front, all by myself. There's just couples. Francis just roasted the shit out of my ass.
Oh yeah. He's funny, man. I would like to see his stand up now, like see where it's gone, because that's what 2.5 years ago, 3 years almost. But he crushed it, that show. And then Marnie was there afterward upstairs. Had no idea who I was, except that she was going through a divorce. And at the time I had a lot of divorce jokes. So she was like, somebody knows what I'm going through. And then we started talking about it. And then she had smokes And at the time, I liked to smoke when I was drinking. So, yeah, we go outside and smoke and talk it out. But
I got to meet Marnie the night that Pat hosted the Indianapolis kickoff party.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the night that I met. Well, the second time that I met up with you guys, but Marnie was there that night. So that was the first time I got to meet her. She's a great time.
She's a cool chick, man. She is on she's on 1041 with me now, the second season.
Oh, is she?
No kidding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, hey,
she doesn't have a big role. She's there, and she was supposed to help me with the research, and she fucked off and didn't help me with the research at all. So me, but
lame.
but she just kind of sits there because I'm like, man, this is just talking into the wall. Like fucking, I need somebody to look at. So I'm like, why don't you just sit across from me, and I'll talk to you. And if you have any questions, or if I say something you want to laugh, but it'll help with my energy a little bit because this one's different, than the other one. The other was all business. This I like to have a little fun.
Our group is exclusively iPhones, and
Thank
we
God.
won't allow green bubbles into the chat.
Fucking hate it. My Jess Osmond, who's on Dockheads with myself and Jeff Oskey, ruins our fucking text threads because it's fucking green. She refuses to get an iPhone, and it ruins everything. I'm like, we're so unsafe right now. People are reading our shit.
Right?
Do what?
So that's your Funtown podcast.
That's Dockheads.
Oh, the Dockhead. Yeah. So you guys had reviewed the burger, or not? That was the pizza. What was it called? Mamma Mia's.
Oh, Mamma Mia's Pizza.
Mamma Mia's Pizza. Evil Genius.
Yeah.
That
dude, the Evil Genius documentary there'll never again be another documentary as good as that one.
So weird. That's weird.
Literally the best, weirdest, most bizarre and hilarious documentary I've ever seen in my life.
Have any of you guys seen it besides me?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You got to get on Netflix and watch Evil Genius, dude.
It was the weirdest murder, kind of robbery murder. I
don't really like documentaries, but Todd, I'd never been a true crime podcast guy. I did listen to 1041, and now I'm looking up more true crime podcasts. So maybe I'll listen to Dockheads first, and maybe I'll enjoy documentaries better. But lately it's not been my thing.
We only pick ones that we can have plenty of people to roast within them, because that was the whole premise of it. Like Jeff Oskey and I we travel a lot for comedy together, and these drives we would just end up talking about what documentaries we watched, and it just turned into this roast session of all these fucking dummies on these documentaries. Like don't fuck with cats, there's so many dummies in there. And that's what it's about. We don't really get serious and break down. The cinematography was amazing. That one camera follow shot, I don't give a fuck less. I want the lady who lives with 20 cats who smells like cheese whiz, talking her ass off.
So you just recently left Pat McAfee Inc. And you started some podcasts. Give us a rundown. What all podcasts are you doing? What are you doing now in addition to the comedy? What's going on?
Yeah. So first of all, I will address one thing, because some people are very confused. They're like, we thought you left to do stand-up and now you have 3 podcasts. Why couldn't you just kept podcasting where you're at? Well, it doesn't work that way. There's a very grueling schedule at Pat McAfee Inc. I mean, that's a serious operation ran by a hilarious dude, but also a very serious dude who has a very serious career going on. He is a monster in the sports media world, and it's serious
business.
Yeah. And it looks all fun and games, and there is a lot of that, and it is a good time to work there. But also, it's his schedule is insane, and you're there, to help. And I'm just not the sports guy that they are. I like sports. Yeah, these guys are savants. I mean, and they're so passionate about it. They constantly consume, read, and study and watch sports and people analyzing sports, right? So they're just constantly taking in information, processing it, and kicking it around in this group chat and stuff, so that all this, the things that are trending and they're being talked about are there and available for Pat to look at. And, he's like, well, that takes ridiculous. I have a way better take than that, and that's kind of where everything comes from. And then from his own consumption. Right. So it's like Monday through Friday, you might work 10 hours a day or more. And there was no time. Comedy is a Thursday through Saturday thing at best, if you want to work like real clubs. And I hadn't been working clubs. I was working my own one-off venues. I was booking myself, and I kind of ran its course. I was running out of them. So I was like, well, if I'm going to be serious about it, I got to get a real booker, and I've got to try to get into the real clubs that kind of, everybody wants to get into, so that people start taking notice that, oh, he's playing Funny Bones and Improvs now and these things. So I needed that freedom of schedule to be able to travel, and you just can't do it with Pat's operation, right? So yeah, I'm doing 3 podcasts, but I have complete control over when we record, and it fits in between the comedy travel schedule. So that's the only way. Like, even to stay and do Heartland Radio, they record three times a week now. So it's okay, I'm going to miss half the time, and I'm supposed to be the host. It's not fair to those guys. So something had to give. And to be honest, I wasn't the asset that I should have been to the sports world to work for Pat. I mean, we didn't start that way. It just became that way because he's a monster in that field. And it wasn't fair to them to be, do we really need this fucking idiot sitting around? He doesn't know shit, about sports. And then, maybe he's funny, but funny's, Heartland Radio is this much of the business. So, I just had to go, I think, where I had the freedom to tour more and focus on those things if I ever wanted to make a go of it in comedy, like a real legit go. So, and the other these 3 podcasts now I have are basically all the things I'm passionate about that I've been wanting to work on for a long time. So the true crime, that came from, obviously being a detective for 21 years. And when I first left it just to go work for Pat and do comedy, I pulled away from it. I'm like, kind of like Pat did with the NFL. You notice when he first left the NFL, it was kind of the last thing he wanted to talk about for a little bit. He's like, I'm taking a break from the NFL. I consumed my life for so long. And I was that way with police work. But then after you're away from it a little bit, and I think it happened with him too, he's like, but now that I've had this break, I forgot how much I loved the game of football. And I forgot how much I have learned about the game of football from having been inside it for so long. So he felt himself being pulled back into it. And I felt that way about police work. And it just kind of became a thing where I had this case that I had helped with a little bit. And I was very good friends with the guy who worked it, the Burger Chef murders, for 20 years. And I knew in my mind that I think he had it solved. It just hadn't been prosecuted. And when I read online about all the theories that are out there, and a lot of them I knew about, I'm like, I don't think people know that this theory is as sound as it is. It's mentioned, but it's mentioned among a litany of other theories that have no evidence to support them, and this one does. So I was like, I think people need to know that this is like probably what happened, and these are probably the people that killed these 4 kids. So that's how that came to be.
And we all know that Stoney knows, right?
Stoney knows. Yeah. Hashtag Stoney knows.
Stoney knows.
So what are the names of your podcasts, and what are they about?
So that one's 1041 with Todd Mccomas, and that's the first season was an unsolved quadruple homicide, and
Still unsolved.
Yeah, still unprosecuted. And now that the first season's done, I was like, I got to take a break from that shit because that's like all consuming. And that was a case I had easy access to. So like the next one's in Philadelphia, and I don't really know those people. They've done a lot of work and they have a great story to tell and a lot of evidence and stuff to support their theory. But I'm going to have to take a whole team of people up there to handle that. So in between that, I was like, I still want to talk crime. I love more than anything telling stories. Like even when I'm on stage doing comedy, it's just telling stories more than bits really. So I was like, I just want to find these interesting crimes that I think people will enjoy learning about and that I can be funny with if I want, right? Because there's always humor inside that stuff, just like the documentaries. Like there's always an aspect that's ridiculous. Like how did this wife not know that her husband had 17 bodies in the basement? You know what I mean? Like there's something funny in just being that oblivious to the world around you, you know? So I was like, I want to be able to have the freedom to point things out like that, which means you got to be careful about the subject matter because nobody's gonna want you to talk about that. If it's a, you know, 20, you know, a school bus of kids got murdered, like there's no funny in that. So I just pick ones that have fodder for funny and that are amazing tales, and I tell them to Marnie and the listeners, and have as much fun as I can while still like giving that cop's perspective when needed, you know, because that's the only thing that makes me different, really. There are other comedians that do true crime, so that doesn't, no, there's just not a lot of cops that do it, and if they do, they suck, you know. Like, they're just not good at talking into microphones usually.
So I have to ask while we maybe have her on here, because Bree had questions about that 1041 that you had done on the Burger Chef murders, because she did previously listen to a different theory or a different podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
I listened to a couple of them, and it was like you said. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, great.
Oh, there she goes. As soon as she starts talking,
all right.
What if she just got murdered? While we're talking about true crime and murder,
Marco, go upstairs and check.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna keep recording.
When she comes back, just don't even say anything. Just say Bree talk.
Look,
Go.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go.
Yes.
Okay, that was my bad. I just pushed a button because I do that. I'm 90, I told you. But okay, look, with that one, I had so many questions. I did ask him about them already, but I just had a ton because there's, like he said, there's so many theories out there. They make you like, it sounds like they're all legit and they're all like founded, and then you find out they're not. So this case seems so complicated. And then when Todd broke it down, it's like, wait, that's it? Like, what? Are you kidding me? Why isn't this done and open and shut case?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, this one guy, and I need to make amends with this one guy, but he came at me hard, so I'm gonna bear a grudge for a while. But he's local, and he, you know, and I get it because he has spent a lot of time on the theory that he thinks is best. And I was allowing him that theory. I'm like, hey, have your own theory. A lot of people have their own theories about this, but he decided he was just going to attack Stoney's theory and its credibility and our motives for sharing it. And I'm like, oh, I can't have that. But also, I tried to explain to him after a while. I'm like, listen, bro, like this, you can't have two theories that contradict each other and then both be true. You know, not in a murder. Like there's only one of those can be true. And if one has a bunch of evidence to corroborate it and the other doesn't, it just, things kind of make sense. And that's all you got. Like I have to go with the one that has actual evidence, you know, like that's just how you work cases. That's how you make decisions in your life, you know? And he
came for me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
He came for me on Twitter, and I don't even know how to use Twitter. And I was like, Marco, why do I have like 300 messages on here? And then, so that was when we were talking about this before we started. Marco was at work, and I'm like, listen, it's like 8:00 in the morning. And I'm like, this guy came at me again. Like he's being
passionate.
awful. I know. And I was like, he's coming for Todd. He's coming for Stoney. And I'm heated. And so Marco's like, send him a message. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So he takes a picture on Twitter and with it, like draws an arrow. And he's like, click this button and message him. So I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm on the shit out of that guy. I was like, I pretty much grounded him. And I was like, you are not allowed to say these things on the internet anymore. You don't come for Stoney. You don't come for Todd. I was crazy. And, but he stopped. He didn't answer anybody else back.
Yeah.
He did not say anything else, and he quit. So
he likes to do drive-by attacks on me. Like he'll come by and he'll spray a bunch of accusations, and then he's gone. And he doesn't try to stay around and back any of them up or anything. It's kind of crazy.
We have an internal text going on, and when he started coming after people internally, Thankfully, cooler heads provided, prevailed.
Prevailed.
But we almost just.
It was only Tone Gordon that prevailed. Everybody else was like,
So
fuck it, bury him.
Gordon is the voice you're using a lot of times.
But can we also just point out that this guy made a podcast and he has what? He said he has like 26 episodes or something. And he's like, but I never shared my theory in it. And I'm like, wait a minute. What did you talk about for 26 episodes?
Well, that's the thing I tried to explain to him before it got like personal. I was like, bro, listen, I'm not a journalist. And most true crime is done by journalists or people that call themselves journalists. And they're just like making you aware of what happened and reading to you everything that they've read. Right. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. Like I only care about the investigation. And if I don't know any more about the investigation than you as a Googler, then why am I doing a podcast? You know? So I'm like, and people are all, and I appreciate, they're like, hey, here's a case that's unsolved in Dallas. And you should, okay. Yeah, but I don't know any more than you do about it. And I probably don't have any more access to it than you do. So you just want me and my cool raspy voice to read you shit out loud? I can do that, but you know, it's not as fulfilling for me.
That being said, you have done a ton of like awesome interviews when you were with Heartland. Not the Sons of Anarchy guy, but the Hell's Angels guy.
Oh, Jay Dobbins.
Yeah. Do you think that doing this 1041 that you might get the opportunity to interview other detectives to maybe go through cold cases?
I hope so, because here's my dream for that. As it grows, that I can either do bonus episodes or something where it is people like going back to and talking to people like Jay Dobbins. You know what I mean? So it doesn't, maybe that's not the regular Monday show. The regular Monday show sticks to what it is. But then, you know, if I want to put one out on a Wednesday because I was able to talk to Jay or somebody else amazing, you know, then yeah, let's make that happen. I got to improve my tech a little bit. So I may have to talk to you guys about making sure the phone calls and stuff work. But like,
Sean
I still
came
talk
on here
to
to do the
Jay.
same thing.
Yeah, I still talk to Jay, and every now and then on Instagram we message, and his podcast is doing well. I mean, he gave us credit, you know, as letting people know about it, but he has a good following now, and
that's a great episode.
I want to start listening to it because that dude, and he knows a whole bunch of dudes just like him from the undercover world, you know, like
he's a talented storyteller. That's
clutch because there's so many cops or military people or whatever that have great, amazing stories, but they don't know how to tell them. You know, they're just not entertaining to listen to, and that sucks. But he's one of those guys. Yeah, he needs to be in podcasting because him telling those stories, dude, I had a boner the entire time. I'm like, this is the coolest shit I've ever heard.
It was awesome. The whole way he told it, the way he broke that whole story down.
Yeah,
infiltrating the Hells Angels it was awesome. Mayor of Copland, right? Is that what the name?
Yeah, Copland, and he's the mayor. So yeah, what a great name too for a podcast. I'm so jealous he grabbed Copland. Like that's awesome. And he like one time he was like, well, I should have you on and talk. And I'm like, I don't have like one amazing case to talk about for an hour and a half. Like I was different kind of undercover. I was like, you know, all these one-offs and
kicking
limited involvement.
Yeah.
Right.
Throwing guns at the bad
guy. I could tell you a bunch of stories within an hour, but like I didn't infiltrate the Hells Angels for 2.5 years. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But you did do a lot of like crazy covert drug buying operations. Like,
yeah, and he nailed it. Like he's like, and some guys like him will tell you, well, what you guys were doing is more dangerous because it's not as intimate, right? Like that person literally doesn't know anything about you and it's not invested in you at all. So your potential for getting robbed or shot in the face just to take your white boy money is a lot higher in that circumstance. And that's one thing we always had to worry about was, you know, we just set up to buy, 2 ounces of crack for some dude we'd never met before. We're just being introduced to an informant and we're going there in his turf to buy for the first time. Is this a fucking robbery? you know, or does he really want to do business and help us build a case against him? And that was what you would always battle. Like, I've been robbed before, and it's not fun. Like, I've been in that stairwell of the hood before in a projects at gunpoint, stripped naked and searched, and not robbed, like, give me your money. After I was allowed to dress myself and give them my money, I walked away with 2 ounces of baking soda. So yeah, that's another way of being robbed. But it's, he's right. And you know, because of that, what's weird is I have like a weird level of PTSD that I'm just now coming to terms with, that then cops are just starting to come to terms with. Like, there is so much that you do over the course of your career where it's adrenaline out, bam, 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 and then calm. And your body's not built for that, right? That's like when you're in combat in the military, you have these high levels of stress and it's intense, bam, 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 and then it's quiet. And your body has all these highs and lows, and after a while, you get kind of fucked up, and your baseline isn't the same. So I'm just now exploring, like, oh, I got to be careful how much Jameson I drink now, because this fucking PTSD demon's going to come out. Yeah. So
that whiskey will get you.
Okay, on top of that, so what I like about the 1041 podcast is 1041, just the name in and of itself. It's meant to get people involved. Mm-hmm. So what is 1041 again, like from a police standpoint, and how did you incorporate that as the name of your podcast?
So I spent weeks
Copland was
names. Yeah, Copland was taken. Every cool combination of anything was taken. Like I had so many names in my notes section, and I would just have to search and see if that was a podcast yet. Or more importantly, sometimes it wasn't a podcast, but you could in no way get any social media handles that associated with it, which is important, right?
Yeah.
So
we've been on that road.
Yeah. Yep. So finally, I'm like, I want to get the audience engaged, and because especially in that first season, like I needed them to, because their job is to go now spread this theory, right? If they buy into it. So I was like, oh fuck, maybe 1041, because when the cop goes on duty, that's the 10 code, that's the radio code. You hop in your car, you get on your radio, and you're like, Indianapolis 5223 1041, and then they're like, oh, they mark you in the computer, he's 1041, he's ready to take calls, you know, he's on duty. So that's how you mark on duty. So I'm like, I should just call it 1041. And when people look at that, if they don't know what it means, it's intriguing. Like, oh, what in the fuck is that? There's a 10 and then a dash and then 41. Like, is this did a murder happen during a football game and that was the score, or whatever? So I thought, well, I'll just let it eat with that. And then I end up adding my name to it, because then you find out, well, I need people to find me easily. And if they don't remember the name of the podcast, they can just type in my name and it'll help, associate it quicker. So you're going 1041 with me. You're marking on duty with me as like a member of the squad, and we're working on it together.
So have you figured out what your people are called yet?
I think I met a lady went out for kind of St. Patty's Day on Friday. And by the way, no one in Indianapolis is out, like dead on a Friday. The coronavirus is killing everything. Oh, so shit. We go there, and normally, this place would be just shoulder to shoulder with people. There's maybe 40 people in this tent watching this John Bon Jovi cover band, and a guy with a horrible Bon Jovi wig. Like, so yeah. So we're there, and a lady that listens to it came up to me, and she said, "Are you Todd Mccomas?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I'm a 1041er." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not a bad, 1041er." Because I had thrown around again in my notes section. I'm like, 1041 percenters. I kind of like.
Ooh, I like 1%ers.
Yeah, because the outlaw motorcycle clubs.
Yeah.
But I might reserve that for some point where it's more like a VIP experience. Not that costs money, but that's the more like intense.
Oh, we talked about the Patreon. We could be the parolees.
Oh, nice. There you go. I like that. I like that a lot. So I think it's probably going to be something like that. And maybe I'll marry it up where I have 20 different variations I can throw around whenever I want, like 1041, 1040 someone's, and, whatever I can come up with. But I think maybe 1041ers for the people that avidly listen, and then maybe the people that go really super involved with it. Maybe they're the 1041 percenters.
Bree.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bree.
Writing down questions in the bar, like, okay, look.
Well, I didn't want to forget them.
Yeah. The tonight. Well, I don't know when this goes out. When does this go out?
I'm gonna pull an all-nighter and do it by the morning.
Oh, cool. So when this comes out, the first episode of season 2 is called The Murder Castle, and it's about H.H. Holmes, who, like the nation's probably first serial killer on record.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that was a good one to start, and it has an Indianapolis connection to it. So I was like, oh, here we go. We gotta start there. Start with the biggest.
Is that how you said it though, or you say, "Here we go"?
I gotta. You know what's weird is I want to always use "Here we go," but I feel kind of bad because it kind of just was born on Heartland Radio. I still incorporate it, obviously, my own way, but I probably shouldn't feel bad about it because it was always just done as a tribute to Goldie from the UFC.
Sure.
You know. So yeah, I'll probably bring it back. I'm sure.
That's all you trademark. That's
yours.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Brian Champagne, got that printed on a koozie.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. He gave it to me.
Yeah.
I got it. You know, that's the coolest thing. Like when people give you koozies. I have like 12 koozies that I have that people give me at shows. It's awesome. Like
Brian has thousands.
Oh,
He's an addict.
koozies are the best.
Did you try their French dressing that they gave you?
I haven't yet.
He's still bitter. He said he's still bitter because you muted him. He goes, you know what? I asked him at the show. He goes, did you mute me? And he's like, he showed me. He goes, yep. And then he didn't unmute me. He goes, that was the most gangster shit ever.
I did. He is unmuted now. So
is he?
it probably
Oh,
just
there you
took
go,
me
Brian.
a minute to figure
Nobody
out how to
killed
do
him. Let
it.
him listen.
No.
We're gonna either that or I'm gonna put a clip of the video.
Yeah, he's unmuted now. I don't even know why I muted him. I was probably drunk and maybe there was a long thread going on or something, and I needed my phone not to be blowing up. I don't know.
There was in the whole group of all of us, like Pat used to follow me, and then he unfollowed me, and I never did figure out why, but you know, I still love the guy. I mean, that's why we're all here. You know,
right.
That's how we created all this. So
Yeah,
I'll always love the guy, and I'm sure at some point in time, because I did get to meet him that one weekend in Indy, and we got a chance to talk and shit. So he's always been nice to me, always been cool to me. I never figured that part out, but I was like, whatever, you know. And Brian was like that too. He goes, I don't know why, but that was really fucking gangster that he didn't unmute me right there.
it wasn't intentional. I probably was just wrapped up in other shit. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it later. And I for the life of me can't. Like, I know it wouldn't have done anything like piss me off or anything. I definitely would remember that. I think, but who knows?
Did you figure out that you muted him? Did he just go up and ask you?
Yeah. While we were there, he figured it out before we got there because he mentioned it to us, and then when we went to the show, he asked Todd to his face. He goes, "Oh yeah." Todd showed him. He goes, "Yeah, I totally got you muted."
I can only assume he was on a heater one night, and I was drunk and not having it.
Brian gets on heaters.
Oh, for sure.
And I would be the way I am with tech, forget to go and unmute later. Like you just always muted once I mute you. Yeah.
So one thing in our group, Trashman asked me, we have to ask. Marco has promised to get up on stage. Yeah. Marco, we made a deal. He's going to get up on stage and do his first open mic. What do you got? What kind of advice do you got for him? And what kind of shit can you give him to get him to move on? Bree, feel free to interject as well.
Dude, I got so drunk the first time I did an open mic. Like I literally don't remember my set. That's how drunk I got. And it just started with nerves, right? I'm like, I took the day off of work and to prepare all day for this thing. And then I thought I had confidence. I was like, all right, I have all the jokes down. I have them memorized, And then I go, it's maybe 5 hours before showtime. So my dad, my girlfriend at the time, that was the reason I was doing it. She suckered me into it. And then a buddy, we're all going to go with me. so I called them and I'm like, we have to leave real soon and go somewhere and drink beforehand. So we'll go to a bar next door to the comedy club. We're like 4 hours before I even have to be there. I end up doing all kinds of shots and like I'm nervous drinking, just trying to drown the anxiety. And by the time I hit the stage, autopilot. I guess it went well enough. People liked it. And so then I had to go back a second time, like, oh, I don't even know what it's like. I don't even remember the first time. So that was really my first time because that's the one that got me hooked because I actually remembered what in the fuck happened. But I wouldn't do that. Because you want to remember it, right? You want to in case you never do it again, for one.
Yeah.
But you just got to, you know what? You're an old enough dude. You got to just do personal life stories. My first joke I ever wrote, and I used it for a long time because it ended up doing very well for me, but it was a joke based on my son's mom. She has a lazy eye, and I had this whole bit about that I'm kind of turned on by lazy eyes in women. And
wait, hold on. Is that why you roommate with Sean?
Yeah. I told that at a show one time, and Sean came up after me and he goes, now I know why he asked me to move in with him. He's trying to fuck me. So that's the best way to do it. Like I tried for a long time just being observational, and you can do that stuff, but it's like you might as well get into personal stories right away because that's what works best. So if you give you 3 or 4 minutes, whatever it is, wherever you're going, just fucking write up 2 good stories, 2 good personal stories about yourself. And tell them the same way you tell them to your friends.
Or
just
tell them as Marco and then tell them as Barry. Just do one or the other.
It's been no big secret that I'm a huge fan of comedy, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, Bert's, Tom's, Joe's. And we had Brant Tobler, who you're friends with. We had him on here like a month ago, and he was giving me some insight on what to do also. But I did sit down, and me and Bree had hammered out some personal stories of things that I wanted to talk about. But because there's very much the Mexican side of me, and then there's very much the white side of me. And British Will named my alter ego Barry. So, and you got to meet Barry a little bit last couple weeks ago in Springfield when I was drinking the White Claw.
Yeah. You're feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So those are some stories that I've been working on, and I think that I think I can get up there and I can hammer some of them.
That's the way to do it. Just saying, tell it the same way you tell it to your friends as when you start it, and then the more you do it, you'll get better at like punching it up. We call it, right? Sure. So you just add little funny details along the road till you get to the big finish. But the best way to start it, and that's how I start them now when it's new. I just tell the story like I would tell it in the car to my friends or to Marnie, and then if I can tell it has legs, like it gets a decent response, then I'm like, all right, this is one I need to really work on and fine tune and really, build the laughs along the way. Yeah, it's like when you watch Burr and all these great storytellers, they've mastered getting laughs along the way, right? So it's not 5 minutes of story and then it ends in a big laugh. You need all these laughs, to happen throughout. So, but that's like advanced shit. You don't get worried about it. When you first start, you're only gonna have 3 or 4 minutes anyway.
Sure.
So when is Marco gonna open for you?
As soon as he's ready.
Legs tried that shit a couple weeks ago.
Which, thank God you couldn't get up there that day because this man was in no shape to meet up on stage.
Would have been funny for us.
Oh yeah.
Well, Todd, you missed it when you walked out with us. Oh my God, you guys, Marco kept asking him to sign this poster. And he's like, I don't have a pen. Do you have a pen or a marker? And Marco's like, oh, the pen, the marker. And then he'd ask it again. And I was like, Barry, shut it down. So then Todd went one way.
That's why you were calling him Barry. I didn't know the story behind it. All right.
Yes, okay, because I hate Barry. We all know that I hate Barry. I'm always like, leave Barry at home. He can't be in my car. He can't be in this house. Get him out of here. So anyway, so we're walking back to the hotel and you went the other way and we walked over to the hotel. He trips on the curb, almost falls, grabs onto me and says, "Oh my gosh, you might need to carry me." And I'm like, "I am 5 feet tall. I cannot carry you anywhere." It was terrible. It was terrible. Oh my gosh, she's like bouncing off the walls in the hotel, bouncing around in the elevator. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm trying to hold him up.
That's the worst when you get to that point where you're like gravity starts fucking with you and you get the sways. And dude, I was just in Lexington, and after the shows, there was this lady, and God love her, like she's been with me since the Bob and Tom days. Like she really, man, she was into it, but she got so drunk, and her husband, really cool dude. But by the time she got outside and she got ready to hit a cigarette, and she was already swaying a lot. And I go, "I don't think you want to hit that cigarette." She goes, no. And I go, "Listen, in my experience, once you start the sways and then you fucking put you smoke a cigarette and you add that to the mix, you're done. Like you can't even stand." I get that way all the time. So she does it, and then she literally somehow bends backwards, like she's like this, like she's possessed and bending at an L, but not falling over. Like her back is almost parallel to the ground at the hips, and I'm like, how are you still upright? How you should be falling? But she would hold it there or whatever, and then I'm looking at her. I'm like, pull her up, and her husband would pull her back up. But she was gone. She had to go home. We had to go in the car and go home. Yeah, it was bad.
Did she drop her cigarette, or did she keep it going?
Yeah, she got like halfway through it. Halfway through it, her husband took it and flicked it away. He's like, "Yeah, you're done."
Yikes.
Yeah, she's smoking. Dude, I've never seen anybody be able to maintain that position. Like, I don't know if she was like formerly a gymnast when she wasn't 60 or what, but she still has the flexibility. Weird enough.
She's currently in limbo.
Yeah. She's the limbo champion of her hometown.
I was gonna say I started listening to you guys when you were on Bob and Tom also. Like I didn't know who Pat was before he had quit and started doing everything. But I remember hearing you guys on Bob and Tom, and I was like, man, these guys are fucking hilarious. And then I started listening to the podcast as soon as you guys shifted over. What was the transition from where you were still a detective to where you ended up quitting and joining forces and all that?
Well, I knew Pat was considering retiring. Pat actually had reached out to me just like, hey, let's just start cooking on some ideas because it's possible I might leave at the end of this year. And then the theory was that he might build his own app. Like we actually had several meetings with an app building company, a group that does that here in Indianapolis. And the idea was making your own content, podcasts and otherwise for this app. And then maybe getting in the business of acquiring content and putting it on there that was comedy related. And when he does something, he goes all out. I don't know why he ended up dumping into that thing that we never used, but it was going to be awesome. I can tell you that. Like, and it was these people were talented that were building it. So before it reached the like beta test phase, he I think just had a conversation with Big Cat because he had become friends with him and PFT. And I think what happened, probably, I'm just assuming here, was that he just mentioned to Big Cat, hey, what's up, Pat? And Pat's like, oh, I'm kind of working on this thing right now, thinking it might work. And then Big Cat probably went to Dave and said, hey, Pat's getting ready to do what he could be doing here, and we already have the platform, maybe we could work something out. And I think that's why Dave probably reached out to him when he did. And it just made sense. It's like, why try to build our own infrastructure when we can try it out with them for a while. And so we went to a Pacer game, and of course he gets a suite, we're sitting up there, and he just breaks it out over some fucking nachos and wings. He's like, hey man, you want to retire? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I think Barstool Sports wants to partner with me, and you could come on and try to help me figure out what we're going to do and all that. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in. Let's go. And that's just what happened. And as soon as
the pension and everything.
Yeah. Well, I still get a pension, So that's a good thing. Like I have to wait 2 more years before I can start collecting it, but I had enough time in where my pension's there. I just lost like 2% every year I leave early. So I left 4 years early. So I lose like 8% of my pension, but I was making more money, so it'll balance out.
And you're not at threat to get shot every day.
Exactly. And I literally got my ass shot off like right before that. And I'm like, I'm trying to get on Comedy Central, bro. I'm not I'm not about dying in a parking lot in the hood. No.
How did that go? It's like Pat always tells the story, like when he explained it to Jim Irsay and everything, like, and told the world, he got a ton of hate for, hey, you're throwing away millions, blah, blah, blah. Did you get, I mean, obviously not to the scale, but did you get a lot of hate? Like, you're going to do what now? You're quitting this job with a pension and you're good at it and you're going to go hang out with a punter and try to do comedy?
Not people that were close to me in my circle, because they'd been coming to my comedy shows for several years. They heard me for years on Bob and Tom. They were big fans of Pat. So when that started rolling and I was opening for Pat and hanging out with Pat, they thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So most of them were like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Yeah. Like, why would you stay if you can go work for Pat McAfee? Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. So it made sense to most of them. The ones that it didn't make sense to weren't that close to me anyway, Sure. And really the only thing was insurance. Like, if you retire after 25 years with the state police, you get to keep your insurance for life. And I didn't get to do that because I left 21 years into it.
Wow.
But we had insurance. We had awesome insurance with Barstool Sports, and probably, I'm sure Pat and them were like months away probably from, they were currently working on an insurance program there. So he's going to be so big at ESPN. They're probably going to have ESPN benefits before long or something. You know what I mean? So
when he threw out 9 figures, holy shit.
Dude, he's worth every bit. Worth every bit. Like,
Agree.
Do you think of, and I don't know, I think, and the other guys know way more about this than I would, but I think at first ESPN didn't realize what they had. It was just a matter of probably some younger people there were like, hey, we have to start getting Pat McAfee involved. Are you seeing what's going on? And probably the older people were like, what? He's not even an analyst. What are you talking about? And he got on there in those kind of test shows that nobody was going to watch anyway, those college markets they put him in. And all of a sudden it trended on Twitter. Like, these games nobody cared about were trending, Baylor and Cincinnati, I think, would have been one of the first ones. And it changed everything. I think then it's like, oh, wait a minute. And then once Herb Street fell in love with Pat, what he could do.
The Saturday football games, when he showed up, it was game over.
He
jumped in the river.
Yeah. The things he did for those little colleges too, on those Thursday night games, their Twitter followings. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they doubled because Pat did a little, video with them, and that was crazy. Like Tulane or whatever the hell it was. Like, I remember I looked at their page, there's 2,500 followers. The next day, it was like 12,000.
You know what the craziest thing is that sometimes in the background, you could hear big-time NFL players bragging about the fact they went on Pat's show or that they're getting to go on there. And I'm like, how fucking cool is that? When your show has become, and it's become probably the most cool show to appear on. I mean, coolness wise, you know what I mean? Sure.
Best friend Aaron Rodgers, AJ Hawk.
Yeah.
I mean, just name after name.
AQ Shipley.
Yeah. And AQ, phew, that guy's a gem. Oh. That guy's awesome. I love him. But yeah, I couldn't be happier for Pat. I mean, I know probably a lot of people, you guys wouldn't think this, but a lot of people are probably like, something must have went wrong and blah, blah, blah. Not really. I mean, life just sometimes goes different directions for friends, and I told him, I'm like, I feel like a piece of shit that I can't, I'm not more passionate about sports than I am, and that I can't just make that my thing. But, he gets it. He's also a comedian, so he gets that side of things too, That's what's
from as
cool
much as I've seen from comedians, everything, it's you finally got to the point where you really, really want to take it seriously, and it's hard to wean yourself off of the tit. But it seems like that's what you had to do. You're like, you know what? I can't keep. If I want to do this and I want to earn it, like I get out there and hit the road.
Yeah, and and I'm not even looking to become Bert Kreischer or even bigger than that Tom Segura or bigger than that Joe Rogan, where my goal is not to sell out arenas, like that kind of success. I just literally want, if comedians are talking about me, like if Bert Kreischer or somebody is talking about comedians and my name comes up, that they go, oh yeah, that guy's funny. That guy's funny. Yeah. Like I always envied the Gary Goldman career. And I'll never reach that level of credibility, but like every comedian who is somebody admires Gary Goldman because
he got a lot of credit from I think it was Joey Diaz and somebody else were talking about him. They're like, Gary as an actor and as a comedian.
Yeah, like literally everybody, he's considered a genius. Like he's a true craftsman, and everybody would love to be able to do what he does. And he doesn't have the fame that the other guys do. He's just that level of respect. I don't even want that. I just want them to be like, oh yeah, he's got chops. He's one of the guys for sure. Like if I can accomplish that, that's good. But I could never do it just doing, Moose Lodges in Mount Vernon, Indiana, or whatever. Even though I love those shows, but no one, you know what I mean? Like I got to get out and about and kind of mix it up.
Wisconsin doesn't pay a bill.
Right.
Who are your favorite non-arena guys?
Goldman's my favorite to see live because for him it's the clinician that I like. I won't even laugh sometimes watching him because I'm just studying like the way he's mastering his words and everything has a purpose. Like I'm in that kind of experience when I'm watching him sometimes. But Chad Daniels, if you guys don't know who Chad Daniels is, start consuming his shit. He has a podcast out now too, and it's going to be awesome. But he is fucking hilarious.
Is he the guy from Minnesota?
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen him before. He is fucking hilarious.
He's a monster, and he gives zero fucks. Like if the crowd for whatever's being weird, he lays into them, and it's amazing. Like it's amazing, and he's just talking about his life, but he can do it like it's so smart, but yet just a dude from Minnesota at the same time. So he doesn't come off pompous, smart. It's just like, oh, this guy who's cool that I would probably drink beer and play cornhole with is fucking way smarter than everybody else. And it doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? He has something special about that with him. And he's just such a smart ass. I love fucking smart asses. Jesus Christ. That really gets me.
That's why you put in here.
Marco, get up on stage. You'll do well. Come on.
Yeah.
And I think beyond that, man, there's so many, but I love Jake Johansson. He's like old school, hilarious, funny. And then I gotta say, there's a dude named Stuart Huff I really like, and a lot of people won't know who he is. He's kind of a weird, like a one-man show, even more than just stand-up, even though he is a stand-up and been doing it forever. But he has this, man, he'll take you through this arc, through his set. Like at one point, his whole hour was basically about how fucked up religion was in its different phases throughout history. And it was the whole hour. And it kind of like, I really admire somebody who can stick to the one topic and then build a whole hour around it and bring everything full circle for the audience. And, be so smart and educated and teach us at the same time, fucking make you piss your pants. It's so funny. Like he's a special dude. If you ever get a chance to listen to him, he's really, really good. He's got a lot of shit online that you can find.
Yeah, you want to
call back.
You want to be on their level then. I mean, you're a comedian. Yeah. You're saying, hey, these guys got the chops. That's what I look up to. You're looking to be that guy.
I want to be one of those guys when other people have this conversation and they're throwing around, like, who's some of your favorite dudes to listen to that people don't know about? It would be cool to be in that list. You're
going to get there. You came on the Anomalies pod, so that's a good start. You're lucky to have you.
Now things are going to start to happen.
Yeah, if you're lucky, we'll get a hold of your booker. We'll have you back.
Right. Yeah, because it's one like everybody's funny. At some point, all comedians that are getting paid to do it are funny. It's just a matter: can you offer something special that sticks out to enough people that you become a member of these fave lists?
Sure.
To me, that's what it's all about, I guess.
Todd, before I forget, Tony Gordon. He's a member of our crew. He's been on a ton of times. He's super talented. We asked the guys, we told him, hey, we got, Todd coming on. You got any questions? He's really interested. He wants to know what your favorite moment with PMI was. Favorite memory, favorite moment. And I'm going to ask, is there something that no one really knows about that you're willing to share?
What was really cool was it was early on, but we were out in the Indy 500. We were way out by the glamping area. We got fucked over by the Anomalies Motor Speedway. They put us out where the whole purpose of being there was to bring fans of Pat into the track during the slow period during the week. And they put us in a place that nobody could access except glampers. And these people that were paying absurd amounts of money to sleep in fancy tents. Those 100 people could access us, but nobody else. So it was weird. But then we decided to make the most of it, and we were Pat rented this RV and had a pop-out porch that we turned into a stage. Clayton Anderson was playing music on top of it with his guitar. He was mic'd up. He played the intro, and then whenever else we wanted him to play stuff. And Pat was just interviewing people, and the original plan was and all the cool racers were supposed to come through. If there are cool racers, I don't know, but big name racers. And but then what happened was all the, I think, corporate people involved in racing started freaking out, oh, Pat's edgy, and we don't know what's going to happen, and we're just milquetoast, and we don't want anything edgy to go on with our drivers. So they chickened out and pulled a bunch of their drivers, but still Connor Daly came on, of course, and oh Christ, who's the guy who was on Dancing with the Stars?
Alex Rossi or James Hinchcliffe.
Hinchcliffe came on. He said, "Fuck it, I'm a big name, but you're not going to tell me I can't go on there." And he came on and had a blast. And a freaking tornado came through or whatever, and we had gale force winds coming through and lightning, but we wouldn't stop the show. So Pat's out there in sideways rain, still doing the show, and actually people are still standing around on the edge of the perimeter trying to watch. And we kept the feed live. Vibbs is back there cranking. I think I was technically the control room guy, so I was kind of in charge of everything. And Vibbs and I are vomiting blood the whole time, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But it stayed live. It was called Live at 9 or something.
Live at 9, yeah.
Yeah. And then that whole experience of being out there that whole week was a real bonding thing for me and Moraldo and Diggs and everybody, because we were kind of the camp counselors for all the interns that were there. So we had that going on. I almost fucking drove my truck into a pond on accident while we were out there. I parked my truck on it. There was a hill right behind where the RV was that went kind of to where the perimeter fencing was. So I drove up on the side of this hill with my truck, and then I park it. I thought I put it in park, and evidently I didn't, but it wasn't moving. So I thought it was in park, but because the way my truck was, it was hard to shift through. And I get out thinking it's in park, and I'm just sitting there talking to Moraldo, and I see him stare over my shoulder, and he goes, Todd, your truck. And I turn around, and my truck is moving, and it turns down the hill and is going straight at the golf pond. And I'm running while it's moving. I open the door and I'm sprinting, and I managed to jump in and hit the brake right before it hits Pat's truck, which it would have bounced off of and then went into the pond. I would have fucked Pat's truck up, buried mine in the pond. The Minneapolis Motor Speedway would have banned us for life. And I'm just so much crazy shit like that happened throughout the week. And we were filming all kinds of crazy shit. Like to me, I think that was the one. We didn't really know what we were going to do yet. We were just really having to operate on the fly and figure things out day of. I think Pat made me walk out naked and do a Dude Wipes commercial in front of like 300,000 people that are watching online.
Those episodes were hilarious. Wasn't Sean driving around in a golf cart the whole time?
Oh yeah, he was filming shit. Like it was so much fun, dude. Like that's one. It was terrible. There's so much body odor in those things that by the end of the week, sleeping in the RVs, we almost died because somebody left the gas on while we were podcasting, and we all got sick. Like this is the craziest week, and there's no better way to bond with a group of dudes than to go through crazy shit like that, you know, and just to live there and never leave for the entire week. So I think that to me that sticks out more than anything. More than when things started getting super cool and big.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Those Live at 9 shows, I will absolutely remember. Like when he called in and had John Daly on at mornings and stuff. Like those Live at 9 shows were just the best.
They were awesome because we really didn't know what we were doing. Like we were literally just figuring it out on the fly, and it was working. And it was pretty innovative for Pat to come up with that idea. Like, and it's kind of spawned, and grown into some other things that he's incorporated from that. But it was all an original idea that because Pat is a throwback. He loves the old Rat Pack, Dean Martin variety type show. And if you watch his big stand-up shows, when he had Joey Chestnut come on during his New Year's Eve show and see if he could chug, 12 pints of beer in, 57 seconds or whatever it was. And then he'll have a magician come out, and it's all a surprise. And then here's Bob Cavoy and then, here's Coach from the Colts. Pagano. Here's Coach Pagano, and you never knew what to expect. And he always kept the audience on their toes. So that was kind of what Live at 9 was like. He loves that surprising the audience, and he loves surprising himself. You sit there sometimes in the planning stage and you're like, there's no fucking way this is going to work, but we're trying it, we're trying it, and it would work. He was right the entire time. So
the surprise is what made it magical, honestly. Not even knowing what was going to happen.
And I'm a freak about production and clean. I'm like, well, what if it doesn't work? Where Pat knows, he knows better. He's like, if it doesn't work, fucking more hilarious. We're going to make a whole joke out of the fact that it doesn't work, and that'll be great content. Everything's content. And I just didn't understand that at the time. And then once working with him for a while, I'm like, oh, he's right. Everything has beauty to it. Everything has value, whether it goes good or it goes bad. He can turn it into gold. And that's his gift, really, I think.
One of my favorite things that you guys ever did, and the guys can back me up on this, was Vitamin Thoughts. when you first started smoking weed after you retired, holy shit. I fucking love those shows.
Dude, I can't even tell you how fucked up Pat would get me. And I'm a rookie, right? A rookie. And he was putting me through some very advanced ways to consume weed. And there would be times where we're recording and you're seeing the edited version, right? So we might have been there an hour and talking, and I would just all of a sudden wake up and I'm like, oh, I think I missed about the last 7 minutes. And things were just happening, and I'm just having these mini blackouts, and by the time they would edit together, I wouldn't even some of the funniest things I said had no memory ever saying that thing, and it would make the final cut, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I was on fire and I had no idea. I wasn't even conscious.
Didn't Barstool have to step in and be like, all right, you guys are quite literally
yeah,
standards. I thought that's why you moved away from it or something.
They had kind of bumped things up corporately, and they'd actually hired the sales director person, and she happened to be there at PMI when we were filming the last one, and she was in the audience. Evidently, she was not impressed. And she went back and told somebody, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, just so you guys know, you can't actually break the law on video and throw it into content. So yeah, but that was a good time. I love that show. I would have kept doing it for sure. It was a blast because
I think you need to find a different way to do it because that was fucking hilarious,
dude. It's so much fun too because it forced me to play Pat's game and not be fucking prepared. Just go on the fly, put myself in an uncomfortable position, and that's really, and I do know that from comedy. Like sometimes the greatest moments on stage happen when you're forced with your back against the wall and you have to fight your way out of it. And that's the same way. Like Pat's entire career, I feel like, is based on that principle. He continuously puts himself in a position where his back's against the wall and he has to fight his way out of it. And it's gold. Like that's all the difference in the world. It makes for epic moments as opposed to just funny moments or good moments, right? And people have figured that out. They're like, oh, this guy's different. That's why, because he is fucking unafraid. The day
he quit Barstool, like I was one of the last people that called in on that day, and I remember he was like, "This is it. I'm done. We're done." And we were just like, in our group, we were tweeting or texting back and forth. We were like, "Is this really it? Is this?" And he just didn't give he gave no fucks. He's like, "I'm out."
Dude, you found out when we did. Like we were literally on the show and he announced it and we were like, okay, all right, let's see what happens here. Like we had no idea what's coming.
I was on hold when he said it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, in the moment I was like, damn, is Pat just going like, fuck it, I'm going to make millions. I'm going back to the NFL. Fuck these guys. I remember DMing like all of you, like you and Diggs and Nick. Like, I hope you guys have a job. Really like what you guys are doing.
We were hoping we had a job. Yeah.
Barstool's got you. And I remember a couple of you responded back. You're like, yeah, hey, we just found out too. So we're going to go into the meeting.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
What? How does that not get brought up before you are?
No briefing ahead of time. Like, hey guys, I got some news I'm going to break here. Nothing. Just came out with it. Boom. Let's go. But again, he was forcing us to do what he does. And look where it got everybody, it works out. And he knew in his head, I need to be doing my own thing. It's going to make a difference and it's going to open up different opportunities that I, want to be open to me. And let's face it, like Barstool's awesome. Dave Portnoy's a genius amongst geniuses, and everybody there's super talented and they're doing great and they're dominating the world. But flat out, if you want to work with ESPN or for ESPN or with the NFL,
it ain't happening with
can't be with Barstool. You know what I mean? And
it also seems like they got the people that were a good fit, like Jordan and Vibs and Booze, and maybe not so much Sean because we all miss Sean being on with Pat, but he was a good fit for Barstool.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out well for everybody. And, some of those people had choices either way, and they were like, well, this is the choice that I should make for whatever reason. And it just worked out for them. I mean, when Pat, that's not something Pat looked forward to, I don't think, was, providing a situation where people had to make choices that way. It was just, he knew there's a rocket ship here waiting to be lit, and this is the only way it can happen. Otherwise, it just sits here. And he was big enough. Like he needed to be his own brand. And look where it is. I mean, he's always right. That's the thing. You can be like, fucking Pat doesn't know what he's talking about. What he's saying? Like, he always knows what he's talking about. He's always right. I've never seen anybody be right more often in my life. The
NBA just embraced him. I mean, even though they just canceled everything, like the Pelicans thing, like that was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he's right where he needs to be. He's always, I think, known what's best for him. And sometimes it freaked people out around him, maybe, because they're like, but you have this and it's so easy. You just keep punting first of all and making, millions of dollars. Like, what's wrong with that? Well, don't give me a boner anymore, So he wanted to go out and do something that gave him a boner. And every day he's on the edge. Every day in that office, he is figuring out something new or creating more danger for himself. And he just thrives by it.
Did you feel like when you made that decision to go be Todd Mccomas on your own, did you feel like that was kind of your move? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not to the magnitude. I hope it is someday for you, Todd. But
If anything, like I that's why I learned from Pat the most was don't be such a fucking, sorry, Bree, such a pussy all the time. Like
Whoa, why are you saying sorry to
Yeah.
me? I live
Barry,
with Marco.
Barry needs to know.
He's the fucking sailor around here.
That's kind of true.
yeah, and I'm, you know, I'm not even looking at anything in comparison size wise of an operation. It's just like, oh, can I provide by my family and work with some people that you know I enjoy working out. If I can help them a little bit, great. Like on a much smaller scale, it's very similar to what I learned from Pat. Like, yeah, you know, awesome to be a part of this big brand, but also there's a little bit in me. It's like, am I, you know, I owe everything to Pat. The only reason I have a following at all is because of Pat. So I can never totally get away of borrowed fame, so to speak. But, you know, and you can't totally feel guilty about that either, because everybody there like is in the same boat. They're putting in work and they're making contributions. So it's earned as well. But there's always some level where it feels a little bit like borrowed fame and that you're surviving on the coattails of somebody else. And you want to be able to figure out, hey, can I develop my own product that enough people are interested in and care about or think that's great enough to continue to listen, and just provide your own business off of that, you know, and your own living, and then create opportunities for other people. And hopefully Pat appreciates, like, that had a lot to do with the decision, is watching him do that and creating these things for so many people. Like, to me, that would be the coolest thing in the world, to be able to provide a couple people a boost or help them with their careers by giving them a platform that they can be part of. You know, to me, that's the coolest thing in the world, is helping people. And he's all about that. Look how many lives he made better, you know, and he provided fame to all these friends that otherwise we were just, you know, maybe talented in our own right, but we were just running around regular people. And we're still regular people, but you get what I'm saying? Like, he used his skills and his expertise and his own fame to help other people selflessly. And
I did it well too.
Yeah. If I can do that on a much smaller scale to a few people that I really appreciate, to me, life is great. I don't ever think I'm going to get rich. I don't even really care about being rich. If I can pay my bills, be comfortable, work with who I want, and help some people along the way, to me, that's being rich. You know, you don't get to walk away with a bank account anyway. When you leave this planet, all you got are what people thought about you, you know, and did you have a good time while you were here? That's all you got. That's all you leave with. So to me, that's what I work for. And I learned it all from him. Ironically enough, like, anybody that thinks it's weird that this separation happened and maybe there's something bad that happened, you know, fucking, I'm just trying to do what Pat did a little bit, you know, like, yeah. So
that's incredible. And so you just talked about the business side, right? It's your goal to earn an income, right? I mean, hopefully put some food on the table and help others do that. How is the business side of what you're going to go down? Like ad deals and all that. Like, you don't have, maybe you do, but you don't have like a light switch at Todd Mccomas Inc. or,
right.
You know, so how does that go? Because we wouldn't mind making a couple pennies off of this podcast either. And for other people listening, they're probably wondering the same thing. How the hell is Todd making money besides stand-up? So how has your experience been with that?
Well, right now, stand-up definitely is what keeps the lights on here. So I have to keep that schedule going enough to where, you know, I make what I need. And then with podcasting, man, here's the simple formula. And it's not simple, but it's just the way it works. You put it on a platform, a decent platform. Like, I always suggest, do the ones that cost a little bit of money to host. Like, it doesn't make sense at first until you start getting ads. But if that's your goal one day, you got to be at a place that has the infrastructure for ads. And it's the real ads. It's not you know, I get 20 cents from, you know, 1 million clicks off this thing that I shared or whatever. Like, you just regular ads based on an actual CPM at like $25 per 1,000 listeners, like regular ads, like how Barstool sells ads and all that stuff. So you go on I'm on Audio Boom. There's a lot of others that are like that. And once you're on there, they have access to your numbers. And weirdly enough, not only do they have access to your numbers, other people must pay to get access as well, because when you get a certain number of listens per episode, you will start getting emailed immediately by people asking you to monetize. And that's what happened with me. Now I do it through Audio Boom now. Like my other two podcasts, Funtown and Dockheads, already have ads going. 1041 right away, and all thanks to 1041 really, because it grew the fastest. But I didn't want any ads on season 1, so I asked them to hold off to season 2, because I was like, I just don't want any stain of what I'm trying to accomplish with that first season. You know, that
was a smart move, I think.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to take any money on this story, and out of respect for the story and the victims and Stoney and all that. So I'm like, wait till it's season 2, and I'm actually just doing a hybrid of funny and telling stories. So those will start happening, but that's it. It's just like they just know once you have enough listens that they know that they can sell ads for you. You just start getting emails. And Dan Cummins is the one who told me that right away. He's like, this is what you do, man.
Here come the spoons, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Shout out Dan Cummins. I love that bit.
Dude, I love him like no other, dude. He's the nicest guy on the planet, and he's one of the funniest. That's another guy. I should have put him in my list. I enjoy watching Dan Cummins stand up as well as I enjoy anyone's. Like he keeps it fresh. He's always working on new shit, and his style is fucking awesome because he gets weird. Like he'll go in deep on shit, and I fucking love that. Like he might go, I don't know, just for an example, I don't know if he's ever done a Ben Franklin bit, but he will go deep into Ben Franklin and turn it into the funniest fucking shit on stage, you know. And I dig that shit. Like I like to learn and laugh at the same time, and he's great at that. So he was real cool with advice, man. He's just like, you know what, you're gonna start in my his agent, he hooked me up to have a conversation with his agent, and they gave me some great advice on what platforms to sign up with and what to do once I was in there. And you're right, it worked. Started getting emails, and they just start signing you up and selling ads. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's all coming together. So there will be income at some point from those. I don't know how that happens yet. I assume at the end of a month after they've sold some ads that I start seeing some kind of money. And but I got people on there to pay too, because I have talent on those podcasts, and I'm not going to expect them to work for free. The same way Pat never did. So,
right.
Yeah. So, is it going to make me rich? No. But if it pays some bills and it helps keep the operation growing, then I'm happy. I'll do a fucking stand-up show every weekend. I don't give a fuck. I like doing it.
Yeah. So is is the stand-up your number one passion, or is it the podcasting and the conversational bit your number one passion?
It's almost becoming equal. Stand-up's number one. Stand-up's number one, but not by far now. Like now that I'm doing my own and it's my own style and things that I'm really passionate about, it's starting to catch up to it. I really, man, this new season of 1041 is me to the core. Like, and I don't think probably a lot of people know that, but me digging deep into a story and finding out the ins and outs of it and being funny along the way, like that's truly me. And it's something that I can't do on stage in front of a live audience because it's not fast enough,
Right.
But I like that equally as well as performing live and just doing stand-up. What's different about each is like stand-up, and you'll find this out, Marco, if you start doing it. You have to adapt to each show. You don't really know until you're about 2 to 4 minutes into your set if what you had in mind to do on that stage is going to work or not for that crowd. So you build the front end of your set with some test material, right? Like this one is a little smarter. So that's going to be in there to see how they react to that. This one, guess, is a little dirtier. Let's throw it out there. And so you need to do that very early to see if you can continue to do those type of bits and those types of stories throughout your set. Because if right away that smarter one didn't work, you're like, got to get back to basics. Let's dumb this up a little bit. Let's do the easy stuff. Yeah. And like if a crowd's really drunk, you can't go in depth and use things that you expect. Like, I need you to remember what I said 10 minutes ago for this joke to work. You can't do that with a drunk crowd. You just got to give them more fast food type comedy. Yeah. So that fascinates me too, because there's so much psychology with crowds and making your act work in front of each crowd. Like it's almost like being undercover, like I never knew what each fucking turd I was dealing with, what was going to work on them and what wasn't. And you just had to fill them out real fast and then adapt right there. You're like, oh, this guy likes fucking electronics. Look, his place is full of fucking stolen computers and shit. Like I'm going to start trying to fucking buy computers from him, and he's going to love me.
You mentioned that on the previous episode. I think it was Funtown. Or it was one of them where you had been buying stuff from Best Buy, and then you were selling it as to buy drugs with.
It's a great
and
cover.
Then they put a halt on that.
Yeah, fucking dude. That's the thing about police work. The fucking bureaucrats that are in charge, they don't get it. They're like, oh, no, technically you're not supposed to take your buy money that we give you and buy something with it and trade it for dope. I know technically that wasn't written in the rules, but does it really violate anything? I don't think so. And by the way, you've never bought drugs on the street before. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because I need some credibility. I need people to not think I'm the police. And that nothing worked better than me having this cousin that could rip shit off from a Walmart trailer whenever he wanted, and I could be the hookup and get dope that way than me just coming in with clean $100 bills. You know what I mean? So they just never got it. And I was taught that. I was taught that by a dude. I didn't come up with it. A guy taught me that. He was old school and he'd done it for years, and nobody else was doing it. And I'm like, that's fucking genius. I'm going to start doing it.
It's like unwashing your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it dirty.
Especially with crack dealers, dude. They're used to their fucking customers going out and fucking robbing cars all night long to come in and trade for crack. Like, they don't have jobs. They're not making money. They have to steal for a living in order to keep being crackheads. And it just played. But they don't care. They don't care. They're bosses. They don't know.
What's your favorite cop or TV show? Movie or TV show?
My favorite, The Wire, I really liked a lot. I think I'm going to rewatch it because I haven't watched it in so long.
That's Baltimore, correct?
Yeah, because I've spent a week with the team that show's based on, the electronic surveillance unit for Baltimore PD. So I spent time with that actual unit. And they're, by the way, if you've ever watched The Wire, their base of operations in an old shipyard building. That's really the case. They're in this cool, and it's got like a giant, old school elevator that you ride up in, like a freight elevator that you go up to the second floor on. Like it's cool. Oh. They're legit. They're the godfathers of tracking cell phones and doing wiretaps. So
was that like where you went to learn how to do it all?
Yeah, when we first started up our cell phone tracking unit. We had to go out there with them because they were the best at it. They kind of invented it. So we went out there and rode with them for a week. And when we called them, they're so fucking cool, dude. We called them and we're like, hey, what do we need to bring with us? Whatever. And they're like, you got a bulletproof vest? Like, yeah. You got a gun? Yeah. Well, bring that and get an extra gun, and then we'll see you on Monday. And they're like, okay. And they weren't fucking lying, dude. It was middle of the summer. Baltimore's crazy. They would go out there and we'd track down these phones on these fugitives, and their fugitives all wanted for murders. There's hardly anything but that. So you're hitting these houses and these apartments and going in, and like the whole block surrounds you, and they're filming with their phones, and you think, oh, we're about to be murdered by this mob while we're trying to do this. They deal with that shit every day. Like they probably did 4 or 5 bad guys a day, every day, and it's the same thing over and over. And then the worst parts, like I'd seen some shit up to that point in my career. I'd been on a long time. This was different, dude. It was like what? Like, oh, I live in a house where there's strange noises at night too. No, this is the fucking Exorcist. Like it's the it's the haunting. It's the real, house, the Amityville horror for real. Like it was that different. And those guys, they don't make shit. They don't get paid shit, and they're literally working a war zone every day.
So you brought up The Exorcist. How much fun did you have doing on those paranormal investigations there with those guys?
Oh,
blessed.
man.
I would do those all the time. I would be a full-time paranormal investigator if I could. It's awesome, dude. And Nick Morado's into it too. He and I were the ones that kind of cooked up the idea because we're both really into it. And it was like, I thought I would be a little scared, and kind of like the Baltimore thing. Like I thought my legs would get a little shaky there at first. It was just all adrenaline, bro. Like it's just nothing like it. Like when you're in there trying to do it and you're hearing weird things, and you think you're getting responses to questions you're asking ghosts, and they're audible. Like you're like, oh, let's fucking go. Like you get all excited and you try to track it down, and it's cool, man. It's really cool. You guys should do it sometime. You should get together as a podcast and go do it.
So for season 2, I'm only hoping for season 2, the H.H. Holmes house here in Indianapolis. Can you make it happen, or is that already recorded and done?
Well, the actual murder castle was in
Chicago.
Chicago,
right? But there's a house here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, where it was the last murder he committed was in this house he rented here in Indianapolis. Yeah, I do want to track it down and find it and do something there. I wonder. Surely to God, someone has done a paranormal investigation there.
There's got to
they had to have.
If not, it needs to be done. I'll do it. I don't care. Like that's, dude. And that the murder castle is a post office now.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Seems fitting.
Probably can't access that to do. There's got to be spirits running around that place. But yeah, that's a good idea. I'll try to track down that house and see what's up with it. Hopefully it's still there. I mean, I don't know.
I think they still do tours there.
Okay.
Based on what I know. So I think it's still there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was his very last murder. So that would be a good one. A good one. And that story's cool. You'll hear it. But like the Pinkertons were involved. And I love old Wild West shit.
Oh. Like, anytime Todd can get in the Westerns.
If I could go back in time, I would have been a Pinkerton. A Pinkerton or a guy who robbed trains and a gunfighter. Like
I was going to say, if you had to pick, would you be Jesse James or the Pinkertons?
I think Pinkerton probably because I just would live longer. Like you're on borrowed time when you're Jesse James or a gunslinger. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just think that shit's very, very fascinating. And when you'll see it, like weirdly enough, this inner city serial killer in Chicago ends up being tied into the Pinkertons and like a famous Wild Wild West gunslinger, an actual like pistolier. So it's really cool. Yeah. How those two worlds came together for me. It was the perfect case.
I am amped up to listen now.
Yeah.
Really amped up.
Speaking of cases, I know that Bree had a rundown with you while you guys had met in Springfield, but she had asked you about certain cases. I didn't know if she wanted to revisit that on what your opinion was on high level cases.
Well, we were drinking a lot, and I can't remember all the ones that I asked you. The only one I really remember talking about was John Bonet.
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah.
got into all that with everything that happened, but
What's
Kelly and I are
interesting
excited.
about that one? I don't know if you guys heard this interview on Heartland Radio or not, but the FBI profiler, now I'm going to
This is a
forget her
lady,
name.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I'll think of her name here in a second, but she's pretty famous for being an FBI profiler. I didn't know, Diggs didn't know until she said it, that there was a DNA profile obtained from her from sexual penetration, and it's a male profile, and they have that, and it didn't match anyone within the family. So like, I'd always heard one of the premier theories that I bought into the most was the brother.
Yeah.
And she said, well, he didn't match. I mean, it's not his, so it's not the brother, it's somebody else. So that just opened a whole new world for me. I'm like, holy shit. Candace DeLong, that's the profiler's name. Candace DeLong.
And we were talking about that because you told me about that theory, and I had heard that, but I heard off of that there was, I mean, they just had that big Christmas party. Her parents were so weird with her anyway, and she was in all the shows and always dressing up. So I was like, she would have had, like, whoever was doing this to her had prime opportunity to do it at that party, and nobody could have known. And then I want to say, it's been so long since I've watched it, but didn't she wake up that night not long after she had gone to sleep, and she had wet the bed?
Yeah.
Which is a telltale sign, not always, but sometimes. And I think what happened, when she woke up, she's crying, she's, whatever. I was super annoying when I was a little kid. My brother hated me. He'd hit me in the face and be like, go back to bed and whatever. And it was done. What if he hit her with something? Didn't mean to be like, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
But he did. And it could have all been tied in, but that might not be related to the murder.
Yeah. And man, that's one I need to dive into more because there's so many things out there. And there's definitely a weird dynamic there within the family and usually, I'm just a big believer of there's no such thing as coincidences in murder investigations. Like if you smell something's not right there, it may not be the reason the murder happened, but there's something there. There's a reason it smells bad, because something's rotten. And, maybe there was some abuse that's not related to the murder or something. Yeah. But there's that weird dynamic. Like, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered that haven't been, in my opinion.
Right. So, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, and even back then when they did those shows, it's not like it is now where there's all this security and they're checking everything out. I mean, there were like weirdos that would just go sit there. It was a weird time. Like it wasn't like it is now.
I know. And they immediately lawyered up right away. And I get it. They're rich people. Rich people tend to do that more. But, it was weird. It's like immediately, we're not talking to anybody. Our rich lawyer said not to do that. Everybody thought that was weird at first. There's just so many things. Like that case will never be solved. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like she was killed in her own home.
Yeah, and her mom wrote that ransom note, and it was so weird. Everything about it was just so weird that it's like, no matter what happened, that they know.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's just weird. The whole thing's weird.
OJ did it.
Well, and I was going to tell you, because Tanner, you said that you don't like documentaries.
No, not usually.
My sound was all messed up, so I couldn't tell you. But you need to watch Abducted in Plain Sight for your first documentary.
What is it?
That's another good one.
Abducted in Plain Sight?
No, Abducted. Abducted in Plain Sight.
All right,
you will sit there. Yeah, you will watch it. And
remember when I told you that?
Explode.
Yeah, remember when I told you that we always look for ones where it has fucking ridiculous people you can just roast for days? That's chock full of.
Well, and my dislike for documentaries kind of comes like the Making a Murderer one.
Yeah,
that one hits home a little bit because I know people who were part of that investigation because of
really?
Family over there, and I'm not gonna start talking, but they exploited the fuck out of Manitowoc County, and I don't know what you guys think about people from northern Wisconsin. Todd, how you say it running with them? We're not all a bunch of idiots, okay? But like when I travel, that's the first thing that comes up. So when that thing came out, I was like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They're just ruined it. Now I have to prove that I am not an idiot. So my guard's always up when I travel. And
I don't know nothing. I didn't do it.
Hopefully you can understand. I'm not a total fucking idiot, but honestly, people think you are when you travel. Like, I'm not far from there. Well,
same way with North Dakota people. Fargo, that movie. Fargo. Yeah, they had to fight that stereotype for a long time. Still do, I imagine.
Yeah. So when there's a bit of an exploitation, that's what bothered it for me, and it kind of just I clumped it all in one thing. I do love almost more than anything on the planet roasting people. That's why Marco and I get along so well because we just only talk shit to each other.
Hey, same
So-
here.
So I think I'm gonna
grape juice and donuts.
I'll take
You dunk
your
it.
approach for those
Get
documentaries
that,
and see if I like
You
them.
drink it.
Yeah, dude. Evil Genius and Abducted in Plain Sight, and probably Don't Fuck with Cats. 3 big
That was
ones.
good.
It's just chock full of people that you
That-
love. The
Don't Fuck
fucking
with
That Cats
Yeah.
one, that's a
Bang.
documentary?
yeah.
I thought that was just like a stupid Netflix show.
Yeah.
No,
Oh my
it's
God.
not.
I told
Okay.
Marco that. He's like, let's watch Don't Fuck with Cats. And I'm like, is this a comedy? And he's like, yeah, Bree, let's watch it. So it starts, and I'm like,
Dude,
he's
I
like
thought-
putting this cat in a bag, and I'm like almost crying. I'm like, what did you make me watch?
I thought it was about Cats the musical or something because it came out like right after it was.
I will
bad
say
in the
that I
box
wa-
office or
I
whatever.
watched 10 minutes of it. Also, Don't Fuck with Cats. It's the musical. Don't fuck with it. It's awful.
I will always take your movie reviews to gospel. I mean, if you said you want to be a professional, a couple things in this podcast, but you could be a professional movie reviewer only about bad movies, though. That Holmes and Watson review, Todd.
That would be fun.
I'm not gonna suck your dick too much here, but that was one of the funniest things I've ever read with my
I'm going to
eyeballs.
read that review. It's amazing.
That was
Oh
one of
my
those,
God.
like, I think there's a bit of, lightning in a bottle. It's like, can you ever, I jumped the shark with that one. Like, I could never do anything as good as that again as in the way of a movie review because it just came to me in the
Didn't
moment.
they take it down?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They hit it. And then they buried it when it started putting in a bunch of, I think, were fake reviews of people praising the movie. And I'm like, come on, no one's praising that movie. You
right.
might
It has like a
tolerate
negative
that movie.
score.
Yeah. Like it's really, really bad. Even Will Ferrell knows that movie's really, really bad. But that's another thing that came from like an initial conversation with Pat. Like we hit each other up, both went to see it on Christmas Eve or whatever it was when it first came out, and we're like, "What did you think? What do you think?" And we were both like careful to answer, like, just in case he liked it, I don't want to bash it too bad. And then finally, one of the two of us said it was the worst thing I've ever seen, and the other was like, "Oh, thank God, yeah, I thought the same thing." And then I was like, in that little text conversation, that just popped in my head. I'm like, that literally was as bad as having to fucking tell some parents that their kid died in an automobile crash. So like I would rather do that again than watch that movie. So
Just the way you worded it. Oh man, that was so damn funny.
yeah.
Oh,
I have that on the main page of my website now.
Right.
I just screenshot it and put it on there.
that was so fucking funny.
What a claim to fame. Funniest
Did you-
movie review in the history of movie reviews.
Can we get a John C. Reilly impersonation?
Let's see if I can do it. I can't always do it. Sometimes I don't know why Todd didn't like that movie. I thought it was pretty fucking good. I gotta take these off. I can't hear myself. Actually, I thought the fucking movie review was actually pretty shitty too. Will Ferrell's pretty fucking good. He's pretty good. I think your comedy's shit. So I'm losing. I can only do it in spurts.
Oh,
man.
shit.
I didn't even know I could do it until I don't even know how that came to be when I did the face swap thing. I think I was
That was
literally
the best.
Yeah, I was literally like just trying to say, can I do an impression of anybody and do the face swap thing? And then the movie review thing was going on then. It was hitting. I was like, oh, I should see if I could do Will Ferrell, and I couldn't do Will Ferrell. And I'm like, can I do John C. Reilly? And I knew that you just have to throw in a little Yoda in there. It was all the
Yeah, I suppose.
So I always forget about that movie review. That's why I put it on my site, because sometimes I forget about it and I lose track of it. And somebody wants to see it, and I'm like, oh fuck, where is that thing? It's on my phone somewhere, I think. I don't know, because fucking IMDb
Yeah.
took it off there.
It's the most memorable movie review for the most forgettable movie.
Yeah,
I mean, in 20 years, that movie will be buried worse than your comment was.
yeah, right. It would be funny if that comment is one day that review is the only thing people remember of Holmes and Watson.
Put Put that on your gravestone, on the backside of your gravestone.
Oh, you should. Yeah. I would love to meet, because I'm such big fans of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, especially I think John C. Reilly, because he's the underdog in my opinion. I just love him in movies. Would love to meet him one time and just say, hey, you don't know this exists, but I'm just going to apologize for it. And here, and I would want him so bad to be like, oh, you fucking nailed it. That movie sucks. Like, I fucking hate that movie.
I made a shit ton of money for a shit.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Todd, have you ever heard of the Reno brothers?
The Reno brothers? I don't think so.
No, I think this would be.
Are they
right
gunfighters? It sounds like Wild West gunfighters.
Wild West, yes, the very first train robbers in the U.S. Out of Seymour, Indiana.
Holy shit!
And there's a twist to it. Supposedly they also. I grew up in Hope, Indiana, which is southern. You
grew up in Hope? I forgot that. You told me that. I think once you were a Hauser kid. Yeah.
Yeah. So they supposedly there's still a lost safe that they stole off of one of the trains that they robbed, but they're also the very first train robbers in the U.S.
No shit.
Seymour, Indiana, right up your alley. Solve a mystery.
I gotta write that down.
It's right up your alley, bud. Wild West.
The Reno brothers in Seymour, Indiana.
Yep.
Reno.
Look at him. You're going in the note section.
If I made the note section. Oh.
All right, I wrote it down. Lock it down.
Marco, he didn't put it in his phone. He wrote it down. That's what real people do.
That's because he's fucking old.
Come on. You're like 3 years older than him.
It's because I don't have my glasses on.
When I was writing down all the questions for Todd, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a pen. I wish I had paper. I'm thinking of all these questions. And then I'm like leaning over the bar to get into the napkins. There's a pen up there. I'm grabbing it. And Marco's just staring at me with this look on his face like I'm a total idiot. And I'm like, I'm a genius. Look at all this stuff I just found. And now I'm writing down my questions. And he's like, your phone literally has an app already built into it. And it's called Notes. And I'm like, but this is bar napkin and it's way better. And it was just
that bar napkin sparked quite the conversation.
Yes, it did. Lit up my Twitter, and now all these people know who I am, and I'm not trying to do that on there. I literally just talk to you guys. That's it.
I keep one of these on my desk here by the computer, just because I'm like, if I write it down here, I'll have to address it, like to get rid of this page, right? So I'm like, I will have to either these are to-do list things I write down, or if I think of an idea, like the Reno brothers, I will look it up by the end of the day tomorrow, because this page will be full and I have to clear it for something else. So I need everything crossed off. But we're in my phone, sometimes I'll put it in there and I'll just forget to look at my notes for a while. So this is for totally things that need to happen fast. Yeah.
I'm surprised it's not covered in bomb pops.
Dude, I haven't had a bomb pop in like 3 months for some reason. I don't know.
There's gonna be none left.
I know. There's probably a shortage of them now. Fucking, I need to just go on a bomb pop run again. I got away from them. I don't know what happened.
A bunch of 40-something retired cops just grabbing them all by the bear paw full, just bomb pops for the zombie apocalypse. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. Before we wrap up, you want to plug any of your socials and any update or any upcoming dates you got for stand-up? I know.
Yeah. At Todd Mccomas on all the socials, and then toddcomedy.com has everything from me. It's a one-stop shop. All my comedy dates are there. I will be in Davenport coming up in July to see you guys and hang out. But before that, I'm in Syracuse at some point in April, Louisville. I'm making I have a good run coming up.
I think you're also in Des Moines. Probably that's closer for Tyler in June, April.
Yeah, sometime in there. But toddcomedy.com, my calendar's on there. There's links to all three of my podcasts, and their websites are on there. There's the stores on there, shirts for that stuff.
1041, Dockheads,
and Funtown.
Funtown. Yep. He's probably adding 7 more. We just don't even know about him.
Yeah, I'll work on it for sure. I can't do any more. I have no more hours in the day. until I get some editing help or something. That's it. That's it.
TA.
Yeah, TA. We know a guy.
Nice.
Go ahead. Tia.
I was slated to go to your January 3rd show, but my dad died later that day.
Oh, sorry to hear that, bro. That was January 3rd was where was I January 3rd?
Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Kansas City. I'll be back there though. I'll be back there probably at the end of this year, before the year's up.
Excellent.
Do you guys ever hang out in Kansas City?
I have.
I love Kansas City.
I do too. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
So good.
My wife's side of the family lives down there, and we were actually down in Power and Light during the Super Bowl for half.
Dude, that would have been insane. I was there. They were on bye week in the playoffs when I was there, and it still was insane. Like, I don't know if they just declared a law, like you're not allowed to wear anything but Chiefs gear until we lose. Like, I've never seen that before in a town. Like, Indy has Colts fans, but it's nothing like that. Like, everybody, kids, adults, everybody was in Chiefs gear everywhere you went.
And like jerseys too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like real gear. Like, you'll see little 10-year-olds in Travis Kelce gear.
You probably get locked up in Kansas City if you wear some knockoff gear from China.
That's all we buy here. Hey,
Especially now. Especially now.
There's so many like off-color blue Colts jerseys at a Colts game. That's not our blue.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. We love having you. This was great. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally got together on it.
Yeah,
And I'll hit TA up about the technology behind this thing because this is cool and it sounds good. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, this ends up on YouTube.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it.
All right, and Bree, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being the person who had the audio issues because it's usually one of us assholes. So I'm glad it can be someone else for a change.
I'm glad to take the fall for you guys.
Or you're gonna get grounded for missing your curfew. But Marco.
All right, we're gonna wrap up. At Tyler Allen, at JJ Flagel, at K Pasta Primo, at Todd McComas, at Vanilla Gorilla. I don't know your social, Bree.
I don't know my social, Tanner. Just go to the Anomalies pod and look at where they're making fun of me all day. So
It begins with Marie or something like that.
Yeah, just look for the one that's always getting roasted with Marco.
exactly.
As usual, powered by Pro Sports Extra, at Pro Sports Extra on Twitter, every social. Follow along. Thanks so much for rocking with us. This was a lot of fun. Everybody, you have a great night. See ya. Is he?
Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
Brian.
Don't invite me to your career day.